afternoon, friends. Today we are making chili. I made this recipe up for my girls so they would be able to go ahead and make chili in the Instapot by themselves. So here she has some a pound of hamburger and 1 onion chopped up, and she has that on the saute function inside of the Instapot here. If you have hamburger that doesn't have enough fat in it, you can also put some oil or whatever in the pan if you need to do that. So she's just going to take the spoon here and crunch it all up so it's into little pieces. Just stirring it around a little bit. We love this recipe. It's really just a quick and easy type thing to do. Our Instapot is an 8-quart Instapot. We would prefer to have 2 8-quart Instapots rather than we used to have a 14-quart, and I prefer to have the 2 8-quarts because they're more versatile. So if we make this batch of chili for our family, this would be enough for one meal with no leftovers. I do either 2 of these, or a lot of times I'll just make this chili and I'll bring it to church or to a gathering or whatever, and then everyone's eating something else anyway, and I would have like 2 Instapots, one maybe with chili and one maybe with something else in it like meatballs or sweet and sour meatballs or something like that. I could just bring 2 Instapots and it would be good. Another thing you could do is you could bake some potatoes and put the chili over the potatoes. Some people might want to put some like onions or sour cream, or we're not doing dairy right now, so we're not doing cheese or sour cream or anything, but just the chili itself over the top of potatoes is really good. You could throw some nutritional yeast on there for some extra nutrition, would be good if you want that kind of cheesy flavor. Another thing you could do is you could do like a chili and dip, so you use the chili and you just take chips, and you can just use that like maybe with guacamole on top and dip your chip in and go ahead and like eat the chips like that is really good. Another thing that we do with chili would be is you can take that. I actually had this. I was pregnant one time, and this woman, I never go out to eat. And I haven't been out since, and this is years and years ago. The restaurant's been closed for many years. I think it was probably 10 years ago, and a friend brought me out to eat, and she ordered something, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. And what they did was they made chili, and they served the chili on top of pasta. They put some butter on top of the pasta, and then they put the chili on top, and then they actually sprinkled that with cheese, and then they gave you other toppings like sour cream and guacamole, whatever you wanted like around it. I mean, I was 9 months pregnant. It tasted like the best thing in the world, but I mean, that is an option to do something like that. Another option that I've done before is I've had some chili that was like left over in the freezer because it freezes really well. So it was in the freezer, and I dumped that out into like a 9x13 pan. Ours is actually bigger, but you could do it into a 9x13 pan, and then you're just going to use that as like a base layer for a shepherd's type pie. And I would take leftover mashed potatoes, and I would cover over the top of the mashed potato, cover the chili with cheese, and then I put mashed potatoes over that. That's before we were not doing no dairy, but I would still do it with just the chili and the mashed potatoes there, and then bake that in the oven. And that came out really good, and then you just kind of scoop it out with a spoon, and your meal's all set like that. But this chili freezes really well as well, so if you're looking for meals, I've also canned this chili, and that works out good. I would say probably this full batch, if you were canning, it would probably equal about 7 quarts here. I've never canned it from the Instapot. I basically took my original recipe and then just made it work for the Instapot, so it was easier for younger people to learn how to make the chili. So she's just browning the beef here. The beef that we have is from our cows from this year. We go through a lot of ground beef. I don't know about you. We go through a lot. I think we put let me think. I think we put 5 cows in the freezer already, and we have one more bull getting ready to go in the freezer. So yeah, we go through a lot of hamburger. Most of our meat is turned into hamburger. Some roast, some steaks, but a lot of it's just turned into hamburger. So she's just browning this up here, and then she'll add the other ingredients and set it to do its thing. But what do you guys like chili with? Some people eat chili with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We never had done that before. Ours, if we're just eating chili by itself, like chili and cornbread is something that would be a fairly common thing around here. So now that that's just about done, she is going to add 2 quarts of beef broth. We home can our beef broth, but you're more than welcome to use boxes of beef broth. So it's 2 full quarts of beef broth. Next, she's going to add 1.5 cups each of navy, black, and pinto beans. Alternatively, you could use 4.5 cups of bean soup mix. We've done that before as well. So then if you need to, you're going to fill the water 2 inches over the beans. Sometimes you need to, sometimes you don't. She's adding a little bit of water here. Then she's going to put the lid on, make sure the vent is closed, and then she's going to put it on the bean setting, which is, I believe, 55 minutes on ours is that. Then she's going to open it back up after the time is gone, and that's what it will look like. She's stirring all those beans and burger and everything in together. Steamy, steamy. Looks good. And then she's going to add 2 cans of corn and 2 quarts of salsa. That's the salsa there. In our salsa, we have bits of like zucchini and tomatoes, and we can it every year during the summertime when our tomatoes are ready. So you need the 2 quarts of salsa, 2 cans of corn, 1 can of tomato paste. Let's see what she's going to have next. I wasn't standing over her when she was doing this, actually. Looks like 2 cans of corn. There we go. We like the organic corn from Walmart. That's one thing. We can have corn as long as it is non-GMO corn, so we use the organic corn from Walmart. But you can do whatever works for your family. You don't have to have corn in this if you don't want to. So we're trying to use up these little tomato paste too that are non-organic, so we can switch them all over to organic. And that's part of our pantry challenge that we're doing this month, is I want to try to use up some of these oddball things that there is. So she's going to put the whole can of the tomato paste in. Then she'll probably stir that up. And then she's going to get the seasonings. I like using salsa because then you don't have to have like all separate things. You already have a lot of the ingredients like in the salsa itself to make the taste become good. So the seasonings are going to be 1 tablespoon of salt, so it's 1 tablespoon of salt and 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder. So that's it. You don't even have to have a lot of seasonings in this one because the salsa brings the seasonings as well. And this is an easy meal for even some of my middle kids to do. So it's a good, we call it like a starter meal, right? So we would have kids who are maybe like 7, 8 age into like 12 or so, they do like starter type meals. And this is a great starter meal because you're just kind of like dumping things in. They're also learning how to saute the ground beef, and they're learning how to follow a recipe, which is really important. So a lot of times I just eyeball things, and I've been trying to make these recipes so they can be like starter friendly recipes for my children, because I have an eyeball for something, some of my children don't have an eyeball for something, and it's just better if I write it down and measure it out. And I've been trying to work through recipes like that, although I forget a lot of times and I just eyeball things because it's like, oh, I put this much in, and then I'm like, oh no, I guess I put a little more than that in.